friends, Dr. Heather here, live from Ask Dr. Heather. I am trying to get my lighting. Thought I would join you from my kitchen today. It is a beautiful kind of sunny day here in Kansas. I know we're on a little bit early, but this time actually worked great for me as kiddos are at the gym, they are at work, and really wanted to hop on. Had a lot of amazing comments from yesterday. So if you're brand new to Ask Dr. Heather, like I said, my name is Dr. Heather Carden. I'm the co-owner of Carden Center for Wellness. I started this Facebook page about 9 to 10 years ago when I was having patients ask me a lot of cooking questions, lifestyle questions, before Dr. Google was super strong and people were getting really confused about what was happening. I thought, you know what, I'm going to post a Facebook page separate from my personal page, and I actually call it At the Keto Doc. Sometimes people have trouble finding me, but 10 years ago when I met with a social media network guy, he said, oh, don't use the Keto Doc. Keto is not going to stay around. People don't understand what ketones and ketosis are, so keep it very simple. Ask Dr. Heather. That will be a timeless Facebook page. So it is funny. Somebody said, why are you at the Keto Doc? You know, at sign. I said, because that's what really I was talking about 10 years ago, and I was told that it would just be a fad like paleo or something else would be. So I am at the Keto Doc. I'm also Ask Dr. Heather, but I really want to help continue self-care in 2019. And I got a lot of amazing comments yesterday about calcium. I hadn't even thought about that. It wasn't on my list to talk about. Really wanted to talk about methylation and B12 and vitamin D, but you know what? And magnesium was on my list. I'm going to talk about calcium because I had so many people asking. Go ahead and hit the share button. This is meant to be shared. This is meant to be educational and help bring a little insight about what you're doing in your daily life that can actually help amplify you each and every day to be the best version of yourself. So I'm not talking about recipes today, but it will surround food because we know that our body is its own pharmacy based on the foods that we eat. Our body breaks it down, and that's where we get the nutrients. So I had a lot of questions. What is the best calcium supplement to buy? So I went, whoa, you know what? Our body can make its own calcium. How do you know you're low on calcium? And let's talk about why you would be low. Because as a functional medicine doctor, we do look at lab values. We say things are low or things are high or in excess or deficient. But the question is why? Are you truly eating a diet that's high in healthy things that have calcium like sardines and clams, green leafy vegetables, sardines, kale, sunflower seeds, sesame seed? Those things are actually very high in calcium. There's more calcium in a red bell pepper than a glass of milk. And knowing that 70% of us are polydisaccharide deficient, what that means is as our stomachs evolve and we get teeth, like from the age of 2 to 5, we lose the ability to digest milk. And so therefore, that's not really a source of calcium. We don't consider that to be a source of calcium because so many people can't actually break it down. And we see we're lactose intolerant. Lactose is actually a sugar that actually comes in milk. Whey or casein are the proteins that most people are actually allergic to or sensitive to. But think about this for just a minute as we talk about calcium. Babies are born, they cannot eat eggs, right? Not till they're 2. We definitely wouldn't give them fruits or veggies at 1 or 2 or 3 weeks old. They definitely couldn't chew a steak, but as they come out into the birth, they have no teeth, and then they actually are meant to digest milk, mother's milk or some form of milk. And then as digestive tract evolves and grows and matures, as our teeth come in, then we're meant to break down food. We're not meant to drink that. So we should actually get our calcium from things like collard greens, spinach, sardines, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, green leafy vegetables, red bell peppers. All those things are super high in calcium, believe it or not. So we start to talk about calcium, and I'm glad so many of you brought this up. Calcium is the most abundant mineral in our body, the most abundant one. And oftentimes we only think of bone health. And people say, oh, I got diagnosed with osteoporosis. I've got to take a calcium supplement. What do I take? So I just kind of take a big jump back, and we're going to do that today. What is calcium? It's the most abundant nutrient in our body. It's in so many different places. Calcium is our body's natural tranquilizer. So there's many times I see people who come in and they check, yes, anxiety, easily agitated, sensitivity to noise and sound. On their symptom survey, we check their calcium and it's below 9.7. Optimal for calcium, if you're a number person, is 9.7 to 10.1. Labs don't get flagged until they're below 8.6, but we know 9.7 is that favorite or that sweet spot where our body has enough calcium. Again, not just for healthy bones. Our bones have 3 different layers of matrix, and we could talk about collagen and bones all day, but calcium is our body's natural tranquilizer. It helps calm down things like blood pressure, helps calm down our heart, helps calm down anxiety, helps promote better sleep. So oftentimes things would be, what's the reverse? How do I know if I could be low in calcium before I get like a bone scan or get blood work? It could be twitching muscles. We know calcium contracts a muscle and then magnesium relaxes that. Magnesium was also on my list to talk about this year, but I got so many of you asking about calcium. We also talk about normal muscle function. Calcium is responsible for that. Cardiac tissue, our heart muscle, as well as our skeletal muscle, also is very important for our immune system, our gut. Again, things like twitches, eye twitches, tweaks, muscle twitches, your body not calming down after you work out, or maybe you saw a spider and your body should actually calm down naturally. Yes, it could be cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, could be a lot of neurotransmitters, but let's go back to simple. Calcium's our body's most abundant mineral and our body's natural tranquilizer. What happens when our body gets anxious? We can get hot sweats. Thyroid can also get out of balance. So we do see that a lot of people have a hyperthyroid or a parathyroid issue, have an imbalance in calcium. Again, looking for that to be 9.7 to 10.1. So the reverse of anxiety can also be depression. Low calcium can also be a sign, or depression can be a sign, of depression can be a sign of low calcium, as can be blood pressure issues, osteoporosis, osteopenia, anxiety, sleep issues, sleep disturbances, bowel issues. All those things can be low calcium. We start talking, about sodium and calcium. They are so important for our body. So when we start talking about what calcium supplement do I need? Number one, let's talk about, are you eating enough calcium-rich foods? You hear me say all the time, we need to eat 9 to 11 cups of green leafy vegetables because our soil's that depleted. So a couple, cups of collard green, have some kale chips to snack on, have some sardines, have some egg yolks, put sesame seeds on top of your salad. And remember, a tablespoon's a serving, so you don't have to have cups of sesame seeds. You don't have to have cups of sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds. Not only are they high in calcium, they're also high in things like zinc. So red bell peppers, like if you guys saw what we had yesterday for Dr. Ralph's birthday, that was super high in calcium. We had a kale raw salad. We had sauteed Brussels sprouts and broccoli, so super high in calcium there. We had fish the night before. We had some sardines and some scallops, tuna. I'm sorry, I'm a visual thinker. I have to look up when I think. So all those things are really actually high in calcium. We don't do much dairy in my house, as you know. We do grass-fed butter, but I don't consider that a calcium source. I consider that a fat source. So our calcium comes from all of our green leafy vegetables. If you've ever sauteed spinach and you take like 4 handfuls of spinach and you saute it in a pan with a tablespoon of olive oil or bacon grease or even sesame seed oil, it shrinks down to a little pile. So you know that you can get a lot of volume out of that. And actually, as you start to cook it or just blanch it, it increases the bioavailability. What it means is we're not rabbits and cows. We don't have 4 different stomachs. So sometimes to have a little sauteed or have like a kale chip broiled will help break that down so your body can actually absorb the calcium. So number one, I always want to make sure people are eating enough calcium-rich foods. You guys can go look for a list. And again, I use a dairy-free allergy list. Number two, what's happening when we eat that? Are we chewing our food 50 times? Most people, I'm going to say no. And then what happens with our food is it goes right down to our esophagus into our stomach. Our stomach's job is to make it like baby food or something called chyme. So it's all mixed up. So if you were to like pulverize your food, it would be like a baby food consistency. That's what the stomach does by dumping in hydrochloric acid, by dumping in some B12 to help break down some of those carbohydrates. But really, hydrochloric acid is a major function because that acid is what breaks it down. So if you're on a protein pump inhibitor, or if you're thinking like Tums as a calcium source, I'm going to tell you what happens is once you start raising that calcium, once you start raising that hydrochloric level or the acid level in your stomach, or we turn off those pumps, so to speak, then our body cannot pull the calcium out of salmon, can't pull the calcium out of the red bell peppers, can't pull the calcium out of the green leafy vegetables because it's got to be an acidic environment to break it down. That's all the stomach does. It breaks it down. The small intestine does the absorption. So again, we see so many people on the number one purple pill, which actually inhibits digestion. So we see a lot of people getting osteoporosis, osteopenia, having anxiety, having depression, having blood pressure issues, all those signs of deficient calcium, when actually it's because their proton pump inhibitor or the pumps in their stomach, their hydrochloric acid is not being produced enough. It's a very simple test you can do. It's called a hydrochloric acid challenge test. I'll post it down below. We do it all the time in our office with people who are having surprisingly odd cholesterols or surprisingly low minerals. So maybe you'll see also your magnesium low, your iron's low, your calcium's low, your potassium's low. All those minerals being low, and even your protein being below 7.1 would say, you know what? I don't think this is a small intestine issue. I don't think it's a liver issue or gallbladder issue. It would make sense to me that if you're eating a healthy diet, and look at your food diary, it's not drive-through, and you say, I'm eating those things, I'm having eggs, like eggs over easy with spinach, I'm having a big Cobb salad for lunch, I'm having fish a couple times a week, then we say, okay, what is the stomach doing? Is the stomach not breaking down the food enough that your body can pull it apart so the small intestine can absorb those nutrients? So number one, eat a good variety of calcium-rich foods. Number two, make sure you're digesting it. And if you're seeing it at the end of the story, in the toilet, so to speak, then you know it's probably not getting all broken down. So that would again start thinking about, even deficiency in vitamin C can actually cause a calcium deficiency. So a lot of times when people say, if we say we do find that you do have a calcium deficiency, let's make sure you're eating enough calcium-rich food. Let's make sure your stomach's able to digest even the supplement that you're taking, plus the green leafy vegetables, because supplements are meant to supplement to get it up to a period where your body can actually survive on its own. And is there an absorption issue? Maybe you've had part of your small intestine taken out. Maybe you've had a lot of stress and you have ulcers or have something else going on, a dysbiosis or C. diff, or you had a lot of other issues with your stomach, or maybe you have a lot of food allergies, a lot of food sensitivity, you have a gut biome issue. That can also lead to a calcium deficiency. So we look at all three of those things, and then once it's being absorbed in the gut, is it getting to where it needs to go? Where the right people signaling, hey, I need my bones. How would that happen? Well, if you're sitting in a wheelchair all day and you're not up running around, jumping around, I know I'm hitting my table, but I'll do my hand here. It's called Wolff's Law, that when you pound down harder, your body says, I've got to make that stronger. That's why you see the football players yesterday could be knocked on their bums and get right up, where several people here on here, if you got knocked down like that, you probably end up with a ligament strain, sprain, something broken like that, because their bones have gotten so strong from the repeated pounding, or it's called Wolff's Law. So not only do we need to eat it, make sure we're digesting it, make sure we're absorbing it, but again, telling your body where it needs to go. Even doing cardiovascular aerobic exercise tells your heart muscle, your skeletal muscle, I need calcium to calm that back down after I do aerobic exercise. Same thing with sleep. So you have to tell your body where it needs to go. Again, how can we get deficient in calcium? Number one, we're simply not eating enough calcium-rich foods. We are soil depleted. Number two, we've got digestive issues. Maybe you've been on different type of prescription medications like diuretics, chemotherapy. Those things can also cause calcium deficiencies or unknown food allergies. Say that you do have a dairy allergy and you're having this beautiful piece of wild salmon that's high in calcium, and you're having this beautiful sauteed kale salad with extra virgin olive oil on it, and then you put some Parmesan cheese on it, or maybe you put something like black pepper and say black pepper is an allergy for you. The minute you put a food allergy or sensitivity, the body actually stops absorbing and digesting some of those nutrients and just worries about getting those foods out of the body because they're an enemy, so to speak. That's an allergy or sensitivity. Let's digest that and get it out of the way, and then so it doesn't really focus on absorbing the nutrients that you do need. So I think all these things are super important when you're talking about calcium or how our minerals can be displayed, and know that it's much more than just having more dairy to drink, so to speak, or having more milk to drink. It's more than just having a lactose intolerant. There's so much more involved with calcium. Again, knowing that it is one of the most abundant nutrients, it's responsible for the relaxation of our autonomic nervous system to calm us down in a fight or flight reaction, whether it's excitement and joy, you won the lottery, or your kid had a wreck or something like that. That's all the same thing to actually calm down your body so it can recover and restore while you sleep and move forward. So I do want to give a big shout out to whoever. I know I was going to list the names. I thought I don't want to list names and leave somebody out, but somebody's like, can you please talk about calcium? We talked about the year of 2019 being self-care. I went and got a bone scan. I got some blood work done. I had some thermography. My doctor's saying I'm on the verge of having osteoporosis. How do I repair that? So know that I'm not here to treat or diagnose. I cannot give you any medical. I can give you current medical literature and share that with you, but I can't go against your doctor's supervision or tell you to take something or not take something else. But I know every doctor out there would say, yes, eat more leafy green vegetables. Yes, chew your food. Yes, make sure you're digesting your food. And when it comes out, it looks like it's been digested. Your body's extracted the minerals from it. And know that all those things take place. And also know we never want you supplementing if you don't need it. Because if you walked into our office, you would see we have a lot of supplementations. We have different styles of calcium, different calciums depending on what your body needs. So say your body was deficient in hydrochloric acid, it would make sense to give a powdered calcium that's maybe more of a time release that has some vitamin C and some hydrochloric acid. Or maybe you do have a bone issue, not just low in calcium, but really have an osteoporosis, osteopenia. Then you want to have a calcium supplement that has things like boron and zinc and selenium, other things, silica in there, that all help make up the bone matrix. Bone has 3 different layers. I think last year I talked so much about bone broth and collagen, I forgot to talk about the bones themselves, which are so important. So we talk about bone broth. That's another great way to get a lot of good value and vitamins and trace minerals into your body if you are calcium deficient, because now you've broke it down in the proper form, and then you're just recycling it, so to speak, right? Just earth recycling. You've boiled it down, you've heated it up, and now you're drinking it in a source that your body can absorb it, right? So if the stomach couldn't break it down, now we can absorb it in our small intestine. That's another reason I love, love, love bone broth. And we start talking about mineral deficiencies, or you have a challenge with your gut, something's off in your stomach, maybe your gallbladder's been taken out, or you've had some diverticulitis or had a lot of issues going on. It makes sense that you are the perfect candidate for doing intermittent fasting, because what happens is when you eat in smaller portions, your body can 100% process on that. Think of it if you were like a school teacher. I don't want to use a parent, but if you're a school teacher and you have a classroom of 20, that's pretty manageable. If you're one teacher and you have a classroom of 100, it's not very manageable. You can't meet everybody's needs. That's the same thing that happens when you eat a meal that's 5, 7, 900 calories. Your body's like, oh my gosh, I'm so over bombarded by all this food, I don't know what to do. That's why it's better to eat in a shorter period of time, not eat less, but a shorter period of time, and break those up so you're having a 300 or 400 calorie meal that's very nutrient dense. I heard somebody saying yesterday in one of our 20 groups said, gosh, it doesn't seem like people are eating very much. That's because when you're eating things that are nutrient dense, or again, if you saute 4 or 5 cups of spinach, it honestly makes about a half a cup. That's what 4 cups comes down into, because when you're talking about nutrient dense qualities, that's what we need to have. You're going to find that with organic foods, they're actually smaller in size, truer in size, I want to say, because their macronutrient density is so much higher. If that makes sense, because you're getting it all into a very small portion. You'll see that with organic meats, you're going to see much higher in proteins in organic meats. The same thing if you start to see the bioavailability of an organic apple. Let's just use organic broccoli versus non-organic broccoli. There's so much more nutrients in there that your body needs. And broccoli, again, is another amazing source of calcium. So you just want to rotate through that. So you don't want to have broccoli every day. You don't want to have, make sure you're having red bell peppers and green leafy vegetables, calcium, kale. Again, just mix that all around. A rainbow of flavors and colors is the right thing to do when you're talking about overall vegetables, especially for calcium. And so I do encourage you, when you have your annual exam this year, look at some of the numbers we talked about yesterday, some of the numbers we talked about today, and say, you know what, for some reason I do have like a little twitch in my eye, or for some reason when I try to rest and relax, I get like a little twitch on my shoulder or my leg, or after workout or during workout, it gets little weird spasms, not cramps where it's painful, but kind of weird twitching. That can also be calcium. And maybe you find yourself that you're having some digestive issues. Now all of a sudden you're having some blood pressure issues. Could it be a calcium deficiency? Absolutely. Could it be magnesium deficiency? Absolutely. Could it be dehydration? Absolutely. So it can be a long list of things, but start putting those things together and say, you know what? I don't like vegetables. I haven't been eating vegetables. I don't eat fish. I don't like fish. I have dentures. I don't eat seeds. I don't eat things like that. So when you start looking like things that you haven't eaten for decades upon decades, it would make sense that your body would be deficient on it. And we don't want to have you eating Tums. We don't want to have you take supplements, but when there is in doubt and there's a time to supplement, again, with your doctor, then you definitely want to supplement. What I was getting at is that calcium should be really 9.7 to 10.1 milligrams per deciliter. You don't want to take calcium if your body doesn't need it. I have patients all the time bringing in hordes and laundry baskets, suitcases, storage boxes of supplements they took because they read it, they heard it, somebody suggested it because they had this. Simply check the blood. It's not an expensive blood test. See what your body needs. Take what it needs, because what happens with real food, your body breaks down what it needs and eliminates out what it doesn't need. And especially if your calcium level is already normal, then you definitely don't want to take any extra calcium, because that can lead to kidney stones, plaquing, atherosclerosis, kidney stones, gallstones. That's what that extra calcium gets built up. So definitely don't want to take it if you don't need it. And with that being said, somebody asked me, what about calcium with vitamin D? Vitamin D is a standalone vitamin. We know vitamin D level should be 60 to 80 international units. That's a whole nother talk. But somebody said, well, can I take vitamin D with my calcium? If you're low on calcium, you need to stand alone, and then the things added to it, like if you're low on magnesium, you want those ratios to be the same. So that's when you would take a calcium magnesium. If you have digestive issues, your doctors let you know, that's when you would take calcium with the vitamin C, maybe with the zinc for digestion, or hydrochloric acid. Betaine hydrochloric acid is the most popular one. So when you start to see those imbalances, that's when you start saying, okay, which calcium is best for me? And oftentimes, if you do have gut issues, a powdered may be better, but if you have ulcers, you have a tendency to have a lot of gut irritation, burning, then you want to have something that's encapsulated, but it might not be broken down as much as your body wants to be. So all those things are in consideration when you're just grabbing a supplement. So make sure you work with a healthcare provider that knows what your goals are and what your body's needs are and understands those nutritional values. So I want to thank you for joining me today. My name is Dr. Heather Carden. I am really excited to be here with you in the year 2019. I'm always inspired by the questions that you guys bring me. Remember, no question is too silly. And again, this is meant to be shared. It's meant to get some information out there. So if you hear hear of a neighbor like, hey, I'm gonna start taking this calcium, my doctor told me I was XYZ, hopefully there's some tips here that will help you. You can also follow me on YouTube videos, which is Ask Dr. Heather. They're all in categories or playlists. So I've got about 40 or 50 cooking videos. I've got a whole keto science album there you can look at. So I am going to close, Joanne. I thank you for saying that. Also follow me on Instagram. Hey, Pam, thanks for joining us. So when we talk about lactose intolerance, this is a great thing with any food. Now, this is not a food allergy. This is about calcium and deficiencies and sign of calcium, when to take it with, what to take it with, which means which mineral should I combine it with. But if you're eating foods and it smells funny when it's coming out, it could be body odor, it could be breath odor, it could be in the bathroom odor, that means you're not burning things very clean. So it means it could possibly be a food sensitivity or allergy for you. But that being said, we know that amazing things like asparagus that are high in sulfur, you're definitely going to smell it. That's not a negative thing. But if you're eating dairy and your body can't digest it properly, which over 70% of people can't, know that if it's smelling, it's not normal. Kind of like your stool should be a normal size, you guys can start to be your own detective in the bathroom saying, yes, it is normal. It does more look like a dog went to the bathroom, not a cow. I'm a farm girl. Like a cow or a horse went to the bathroom with a big pile. It means there's no form. Anyway, we're going to get off the calcium. So back to calcium. Look for those signs and symptoms. Calcium is much more than just what your doctor said low on a blood marker. It's so much more about heart rate, so much more about diabetes. Sorry, not about diabetes, but so much more about anxiety, calming down the nervous system, depression, better sleep, better muscle function, better cardiovascular function. So I do encourage you to get those lab values. And again, let me know what you want to hear about. If you joined us late, my intention was to talk about B12 and methylation this year. It was to talk about vitamin D, which is one of the most critical nutrients that we talk about because it's one of the biggest predictor of heart disease and cancer. We talked about sodium already, so I already have video on sodium, but so many people said, calcium, what do I take? Who do I take? What brand to take? So again, it depends. So first of all, remember, when it's any nutrient deficiency, look at the list. You can Google Dr. Google and say foods high in calcium, and you can see which those are. See if you're eating those. If you're not, then start implementing them, and then start saying, is my body really breaking them down? Because if you're a high soda drinker, I can tell you that's going to throw your whole gut out of balance. If you've had a history of candida, or you're a high carbohydrate person who eats lots of carbohydrates in your diet, or if you have Epstein-Barr, or if you've had cytomegalovirus, if you had even had a reaction to even like a vaccination, that can mean something's off in your immune system and your gut, because your immune system is actually housed in your gut. That can lead to maldigestion in that stomach that's supposed to be breaking everything down and getting ready for absorption. So this is Dr. Heather. Thanks for joining me here today. Cannot wait to hear what your questions are. And I do ask you to please share this with your friends and family. And if you're getting ready to do the 60-hour keto reboot, I'm super excited to have you join us. We will be kicking that off on Sunday. I'm bringing that up because when we talk about fasting, we talk about intermittent fasting so your body can process the food that you're eating. Doing some periods of block fasting, doing some intermittent fasting, doing a keto reboot 60-hour fast is a great way to get all that stuff kind of cleaned out so it can kind of push a reset, just like you would wash a plate up at the sink that had a bunch of food on it, or if you had something stuck in your teeth like popcorn, then you definitely brush and floss your teeth a little harder than if you just had mashed cauliflower. That's the same thing with your body. The more you've been exposed to, the more your diet's been off and exposed to is food allergies, food colorings, prescription medication. Just if you know you've had an imbalanced diet, lots of sodas, lots of sports drinks, lots of food additives, then you really need to focus on that for your body. That will actually help you absorb those nutrients from the amazing foods that you are picking now as you move forward on your lifestyle to better. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you soon.